hello there again. Now, again, more Walkman madness. Yes, I've started to gain more and more interest in the Walkmans. Pretty much just portable cassette player that runs off batteries. Simple as that. Well, in the previous videos I fixed this one, which I got at a flea market for about €4, and the battery contacts were destroyed, and also the belt was bad. I also managed to get hold of the Sony Walkman, the original TPS L2, which is the first actual portable cassette player that runs off AA batteries that was ever released on the market. Again, this is a slightly newer model because, well, it says the text Walkman, and the original model just said Sony TPS L2 on the top. Now I managed to fix both of these, but I thought I'd finish it off with something that is a little bit special for me. This is the Sony WM AF64 AM/FM Walkman, well, also known as a Mega Bass Walkman, because, well, it has lots of bass, supposedly. Things about it? Well, it has an inbuilt radio, it's auto reverse, and yeah. A lot newer model. Sadly, the belt clip is missing, which is kind of a bit of an issue, but I maybe still have one that fits this one. Now, the story behind this was exactly the Walkman my dad had, but yeah, I also used it a lot, and yeah, when it broke, he threw it away. But I did manage actually to salvage some parts, including the belt clip if I still can find it. But hey, I did eventually figure out what was wrong with it, because, well, first of all, the belts went bad and it had issues playing back. And also you couldn't really listen to music without getting annoying noises in the background, and that had something to do with the yellow switch here, which I'm not exactly sure, but it has something to do with the Dolby function of this thing, or so, or not. It just says DBB. And yeah, it pretty much just was an absolute mess to listen to. First of all, the tape was running way too slow, and also, yeah, it made some very high frequency noises, which were the capacitors inside of this unit that failed. And yeah, I did actually eventually manage to get a peek into the one my dad had, and yeah, the PCB was damaged very, very intensely, and that's pretty much the reason why I threw it away. Now, well, this Walkman here I bought online on eBay. It was mentioned as defective, and I actually had to import it through the United States. And, well, I'm in Germany, so it took a week for the whole thing to get delivered. Nothing really to worry about, but hey. Yeah, well, let's see what happens if we stick two batteries into the unit, and so on. Here we go. These are fresh AA batteries. Well, it switches on. Now, I'm thinking that is just the radio. Yeah, that's just the radio why it switches on. But if I press play on the tape function, you can probably tell what's wrong. The belt is also bad in this one. Oh, well. Gotta take it apart again and see what's wrong, although I already know. Probably gonna be very simple. There are just some screws in the back, here, and I'm not sure if the ones on the side are important or not, but again, very simple to disassemble, and this is actually one of my favorite Walkmans that Sony made, because, well, it's compact, it's a lot smaller and lighter than the original model, as you can probably tell, but I would have liked to see another headphone jack on that. But hey, we do have a built-in radio, and by the way, the radio for something like this is absolutely crazy. It's just the door. The door is the radio. You see some flat flicks down there on the bottom. That's just pretty much to carry the audio and power to the main amplifier inside this thing. And yeah, can tune it, you can do presets, and it also does AM and FM. Now this one here also, this one is a little bit different with the one that I had, because well, this is a unit that was sold in the United States, and my dad had one that was made in Germany, or well, at least sold for the German market, and of course the text on it was slightly different. But hey, it is exactly the same unit, and if you're thinking, how do you get those presets? Well, here are some dials, just turn them until you find the station that you like, and there you go. You got your radio station. Woo! Also got a cassette included, not sure what's on it, haven't listened to it yet. But hey, we can find out. But first of all, I'm gonna make sure that the radio works. And as you maybe are able to hear, yes, the radio does actually work on this thing. So, well, at least we know the radio is functional, and yes, on all settings that works just fine. So, nothing really to worry about with the radio. Of course, that's not going to be one of the reasons why this thing fails. So, let's get out the screwdriver and take out the screws and back and pop off the back panel. Well, and after a bit of struggle, we are in. Now, as you can see, since this is a Walkman that was made quite a lot of time later than these two, yeah, you can see that it's all pretty much SMD technology, and the circuit board is a lot smaller. Which is also a reason why the Walkman is a lot smaller. But yeah, it's pretty much what I expected. The belts have gone bad and, well, pretty much melted and made a big mess inside the unit, which I hoped it wouldn't. But hey, just take that off. It's melting. It sticks to everything. Take it off, clean everything up, put a new belt in, and we are functional again, hopefully. Now the main thing that I'm concerned about is this section right here. Now this is where the, well, pretty much exactly all of the capacitors I'm concerned about. Because, well, there was a bit of thing with capacitors in the 90s, and yeah, those things aren't really good. Which is also the reason why a lot of Amiga computers failed, because, well, the capacitors leaked over everything. So far as it looks inside this unit, everything is still fine. The capacitors all look good. The pads do have a slight discoloration to them, but I'm pretty sure that can be fixed by just, well, putting in new capacitors. Not gonna be the most cheapest fix, because, well, the belt for this unit is €9. For that one it was 3, for that one it was 3, although that were 2 belts. And, well, the belt on this one here is also a lot bigger, and yeah. We have our main flywheel and some other stuff that drives pretty much everything. And yeah, we do have a bit of a mess on that gear, as you can tell. I'm not sure if that is from the belt or something else, but yeah. Nope, it's supposed to be there. Okay. So everything again, it looks still good in here. All the gears and everything are in great shape. All the electronics are in great shape. Everything does sort of work. Okay, let's go and order the new belt, which is kind of expensive for this unit. But hey, then we have this one also fixed. And I'm pretty sure my dad's going to be quite happy when he sees this thing again. Oh yeah, and this is pretty much what's left from the belt. Yeah, just a black messy gunk that makes a pretty big mess on absolutely everything. As you can probably tell, yeah. That was one belt once. What happened there? Oh well. Well, actually I was wrong with the radio of this thing working, since I pretty much had it hooked up to amplified speakers. Now I just put my headphones into this thing and give it a listen. And yeah, at this volume it should literally destroy my ears, but it is not doing any of that, because, well, it is so quiet that I'm kinda sure that something else has gone bad inside here. Now my assumption is because, well, of that capacitor issue that I had experienced the same Walkman, only that I don't have it anymore, was that the capacitors had leaked, and yeah, pretty much in that unit they were already falling off the board, and it was surprising it was still working. So, well, yeah, I'm pretty much just gonna go and replace those capacitors. Just all solder them off, order new ones, and yeah, solder new ones in there, and see if that fixes the issue. I also put a tape in there and moved the reel so that the tape wouldn't move across this thing, and it was pretty much the same result. I barely heard anything. And oh man, I really gotta tell you, taking this thing apart is really not fun. But I eventually did get the board out, and yeah, just gonna replace all of those capacitors, and I hope that that fixes the issues. I mean, I can get the chips that are on the bottom side, even though they are sold quite overpriced. I mean, like 11 euros or so a chip or so, or 7. But hey, I'm gonna start with the capacitors, since, well, that was what failed in the previous Walkman, and I'm hoping that is it. But it also could be that the headphone amplifier, which is this thing here, is broken, because, well, it's too quiet, everything. So I'm just hoping that there's something with filter inputting or whatever that has to do with these capacitors right here is broken, and that is really the issue. So, if someone has the same Walkman, I have created a small drawing, just a very simple one, that shows you all the capacitors and exactly in which place they are located with their specific values. So, yeah, too easy. So, and yeah, if anyone needs this, who has the same Walkman and also wants to replace the capacitors, which is a good idea, well, I mean, all the information is on this page right here. To be honest, this is pretty much one of the most intense repairs I have done so far, but hey, I got the belts. Wait, why are there so many in there? Well, the reason why I bought this many is because, well, these are all different sizes, and I'm pretty sure that one in there will fit into this Walkman. And hey, all of those were cheaper than a single one, so that's why I went with the whole package. Why not? I also got the capacitors today, just have to pick them up. Alright, and the way the belt goes on according to the service manual is we go back on the back capstan here, down this pulley, underneath the pulley here in the front. It's kind of tricky because, well, it keeps slipping off the track in here. Right underneath here. And then we go directly onto the motor. And if we, again, it's slipped off back here. This is annoying. Alright, there we go. And if we turn it, yep, you can see that is working just fine. And so far, to my knowledge, this roller should turn into the other direction than this one, because, well, since this is an auto reverse unit, and, well, it also has a stereo head on here, so meaning the tape runs into that direction, then turns over and runs into the other direction. So of course we have two capstan and two pinch rollers on here, so yeah, it's gotta run to the other direction. Not too complicated. Well, yeah, alright, this all looks a bit odd, but yeah, this is pretty much the only position I can put the Walkman in, where I can still hook it up to my speakers, and yeah, as you can probably hear, you hear absolutely pretty much nothing. But I can assure you that at least something is coming from the speakers, but it's so quiet that yeah, you pretty much can't hear it. Now again, my assumption here is that the capacitors are have somehow leaked or aren't really doing their proper business anymore. So yeah, I'm gonna replace those today if I can get my package from a neighbor. And yeah, but the new belt, well, it works. The new belt is in fact a little bit thicker than the original one, well, at least what's left of the original one. This is a 1mm belt, and this is a 1.1mm belt. Although it does look to be quite thicker, but I can assure you it's not. Just 0.1mm thicker, and well, it works. That's the most important thing. And yeah, it does have actually quite a fair bit of torque on it. So yeah, that's not really the issue. And if I go over to the radio, volume is a slightly bit higher, but yeah. If you plug your headphones in there, you would just hear absolute random noise and a very, very faint hint of music if you're actually trying to play something back or listen to something. So, well, yeah. Let's hope replacing the capacitors will fix what's wrong with this thing. Alright, I just managed to pick up my package, and here are all the capacitors. So, well, yeah, now is just the quite during part of the video where I have to replace all of those. I've got my list here to help me guide with well, which things go. I mean, you can get that list also from the service manual, but hey, feel free to use it if you need it. Just open snipping tool or whatever and make a screenshot. Okay, so I've got my soldering iron already heated up. Don't know in fact what my solder is, but yeah. Now I'm not very professional in surface mounted devices soldering or SMD soldering, and yeah, well, first of all, good thing is I have a very small tip on my soldering iron, as you can maybe tell. Come on, focus. Just gotta clean it up. And yeah, just gonna use some tweezers, heat up one pad, heat up the other pad, and continue back and forth until I can pull the component off the board. Pretty simple. Now yeah, it should be best if I actually take off the belt again, just so that doesn't get damaged, and maybe even take out the entire board actually. Just so I don't really, well, break anything on here. I just really gotta make sure that the capacitors that are down here are in exactly the same space as these are. Well, because, yeah, the belts are very close to this, and there is not even a millimeter of a gap in there. Oh, getting fingers dirty again. And yeah, just really gotta watch out that those don't block the belt, or, well, touch it when everything is replaced. And I hope that this will fix the issue that this thing is having. Since, well, again, one of my father's Walkman, all the capacitors were leaking and there was a big mess on the board. It was impressive that it was still barely functional. But hey, let's hope it's the same issue here. Of course, it's not that severe. Fixing that won't be really an issue. Just gotta make sure how I assemble those, because, well, there are some spaces where I can't really reach with my soldering iron. And yeah, it's maybe best to just start off with all the smaller stuff and then slowly head up to all the bigger stuff. Alright, I'm just going to give a very short example on how I'm actually really going to do this by showing it to you on this capacitor right here. And the way is, well, I have these tweezers. I'm going to grab that component when I have some solder on there. And what I'm just going to do right now is to apply some solder to the pad of this capacitor right here. Also on the other side, so I can get both sides nice and warm. Take it off, remove any solder residue, and then solder the new capacitor on there. Well, I got the first capacitor off. No, I did not remove any of the pads. I'm pretty sure I'm going to use some different tweezers because this is really not really working. And what I'm just basically doing is, if we have a look at that capacitor right there, I'm pretty much just taking the soldering iron and heating up each pad like that until they both get warm to the temperature where the solder is liquid, and then I can just pretty much basically lift the capacitor off with no worries. So yeah, I'm gonna also take the other two here off, try to get somewhere around this power plug, just so I have easy access and to all this without really anything blocking me, because well, soldering in between here is very tight, and I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna be able to get down there. So well, alright, with the first 4 capacitors removed, I'm now gonna clean up the pads and, well, get the new ones, which should be these, and solder them onto the board. As you can probably tell, I'm using 6.3 volt capacitors. Now the reason why I'm doing that is, well, because yeah, the store where I bought all of these, they don't sell 4 volts, so shouldn't be an issue. Now when opening these type of component holders, or normally these go onto a big reel, you really gotta be careful, because if you rip that open, yeah, the components are pretty much just gonna fly all over the place, and I assure you it's gonna be quite difficult to find them again. Even though these are still, in comparison to what we have on here, quite big, but still, if this flies away, yeah, you're gonna have a... Just as a quick comparison, here is the old capacitor and there is the new one. Same value, just different volts. And that shouldn't matter. Just gotta go and clean up the 2 pads here. Now the way I'm doing this is pretty much kind of simple. I'm just taking the capacitor and putting some solder on its legs. And I also have solder on the pad, as you're probably able to tell. A little bit too much on that side, but that shouldn't matter. And yeah, I just put solder on those 2 legs, heat up the pad, and then it should melt just right on. And yes, of course I'm still able to correct tombstoning and all that stuff. Alright, and there we go. Now we can place that component on the board, heat up the pads, and it should solder right on. Just make sure you keep the polarity correctly. You will see that the capacitor itself has a specific shape. If we can focus on that. I mean, we have 2 angles on this side and just corners on that side. And you've got to make sure that when you assemble it, it matches up with the PCB. Otherwise, yeah, it's maybe not gonna work, or the capacitor will explode depending on what voltages are there. I mean, this thing runs off 3 volts, so no worries there, but still you should not ever solder in these capacitors with the wrong polarity. Okay, one side is soldered on. And yeah, I mean, the joint I made is a little bit too much, but I am going to clean that up. Come on, focus. So now I'm gonna make sure the other side is on there. As you can see, we also have a slight angle on there, which I'm also gonna correct. Alright, there we go. This capacitor is soldered on properly. I still have a little bit too much on there, and you can see it's not perfectly straight on there. But hey, I am definitely going to go ahead and correct all the errors I made, just so everything will fit in the end together. And now we're going to do a jump cut until I have all this resoldered, because the camera's in the way, and doing this with the camera is quite a bit of a challenge. You know what, I am pretty much done with the board and removing all the capacitors, and already soldered some new ones on, as you can see over here. These are all new capacitors, and they are all soldered in as good as I can. Not perfect, but they do all have they do all make contact. Now here's something I want to make you look at. If my camera will focus on that. Just have a look at these pads. Now this is a pad that I have already cleaned up. As you can see, the solder is nicely on there, and there is another pad. I just have removed the capacitor by that, but just heating it up on the ends of the pad, and the capacitor pretty much just fell off. It wasn't really. It was just like it wasn't really attached to the board anymore. And if you check this, you can see this brown residue around here. That is not flux or anything like that, or residue of some kind. That is the electrolyte of that capacitor leaking out onto the board, and probably the reason why some things related to audio aren't working, which I still hope it is, that the capacitors is the reason why the audio doesn't work. Now the easiest way to fix that is just put some contact cleaner on that. That's what I'm currently using. Doesn't do any damage to the board. Take a Q-tip, wipe over there. You can see that all that dried up electrolyte gets onto the Q-tip. And as you can see, the pads are starting to look already a lot better. Now what I do to get them as shiny as they are here is to just pretty much heat the pads up with the soldering iron, which for some reason doesn't want to do. Spread the existing solder that's on there a little bit around. Still, as you can see, it doesn't look as shiny as the other pads look. Take my Q-tip again, and also put some new contact cleaner on there. Clean that all up nicely. This pad here seems to have a lot more thermal mass than the other one. That's why the soldering iron somehow refuses to really heat it up. Clean those up just real good. And you can see that we do have quite a lot of stuff on our Q-tip here. Camera doesn't want to focus on this. But as you can tell, yeah. Probably pretty good that we got all that off, and yeah, now I just pretty much do exactly what I did before. And as you can see, the pad looks almost like it should look. Just gonna go over with the Q-tip one last time, and there we go. That is clean. And yeah, just pretty much put the next capacitors in here. This side here is already completed, as you can probably tell. Now just the other side is missing, and that's also the main board where all the audio amplification and so is happening. So fingers crossed that the new capacitors are gonna fix that, hopefully, because I really don't want to go ahead and replace that IC there. Alright, all the capacitors in here have been replaced, and I don't seem to have any issues with the belt rubbing against the capacitors. Just barely has enough clearance there and there. But yeah, got it set up just like before, have a tape in the bottom. But first of all, let's check out the radio.
Und allmählich die Sonne aufgeht. Na Jungchen, sagt der Verkäufer, sowas gibt's in Berlin nicht, ne? Für 25 Grad.
Well, as you can hear, the volume is back. Woohoo! Yes, so it definitely were the capacitors. Probably I just needed to replace these, since that is where the main audio circuitry is. But yeah, I mean, it's just best to swap out all of them, and since I have shown you how the pads on the board looked because of these things, they were all leaking. Yeah, it's pretty much the best way to do it. So, well, one thing I haven't shown you is tape. Let's press play. Now, as you can definitely hear, the volume is back again, but it is running way too fast, which, well, isn't really an issue, because adjusting that is probably one of the easiest things. You just need a screwdriver, and you see a small potentiometer down here. And just by turning that, you can adjust the speed. It's as simple as that. So yeah, now all I gotta do is reassemble this thing. Now I do have all screws sorted and everything, so doing that is no issue. Well, that's so far a complete success. I'm really happy with this, since this was one of my absolute favorite Walkmans back when I was a child, and it was so sad when my dad just pretty much threw it away. Just because of some dodgy capacitors and a broken belt. Which in total was a repair that cost me around, well, let's say 15 euros in total. Which, well, is okay. I just paid 8 euros for that device, including 12 euros shipping from the United States. But hey, that's definitely worth it. Well, and here we are again, all fully assembled. And yes, everything works just like it should. I have some batteries in there, since surprisingly this unit has no battery acid damage whatsoever. Let's hit play. So well, tape definitely works. And the radio. Can't get a signal at the moment, but I can assure you that that is also working. There we go. Yeah, that's probably the reason why it's not getting a real clear signal is because of the building, and since that is a bit massively shielded, and even my big stereo system has issues finding a clear signal. So, well, yeah, that repair was a complete success. So, well, thank you for watching, and goodbye.